Oh,
That sounds
wonderful.
good.
So we are joined today by Avishek Mishra. He will be presenting on new product innovation, integrating the experience economy into your next product. He is a regulatory affairs specialist at Medtronic. In fact, he has quite a bit of medical device industry experience in product development, product management, of course, regulatory affairs and clinical affairs. It spans multiple therapeutic areas, including GI, infection prevention, cardiovascular, ortho, urology, and nanomedicine. He's pretty much an innovative engineer that's passionate about solving healthcare problems through tech and is quite empathetic with the goal that healthcare becomes available, accessible, affordable, and accurate. He loves working with technologies that challenge the status quo in the current healthcare practices. And with that introduction, the floor is all yours, Avishek.
Great. Thank you so much. So do I just share my, let me know how it shows up right now?
Looks good if you just want to put in presentation mode. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon from whichever part of the world you're joining. My talk, New Product Innovation, Integrating the Experience Economy into Your Next Product, is inspired from a talk that I heard by the person who co-founded the term experience economy, Joseph Pine, when he came down to give a talk at the University of Minnesota. And it just got me thinking as to, okay, there are so many other industries, so many other companies using the experience economy. What is preventing the healthcare industry to adopt this concept? And this is primarily a personal project. It's not something that I am working with Medtronic to pursue at this point. This is purely out of my interest and my passion. So, uh, as mentioned in the introduction, I'm a regulatory affairs specialist in the gastrointestinal health products division at Medtronic, based out of Boulder, Colorado. I have a background in electrical engineering, med device innovation, with prior experience at Cantel Medical, which is now Steris, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and then University of Minnesota Medical School. So I have uh, about 50-50% experience in academia and industry. Um, Sorry about that. Declaration of interest. Any opinions expressed here are solely mine, not my employer's. Anything that's cited or referenced, all the presentation is going to be available to you. The recording is going to be available. So all of the links are available on the bottom right, and you can have a look at. You can go through those links and citations. So what exactly is the experience economy? Joseph Pine basically said that. Joseph Pine and James Gilmore, the two founders of this term, the experience economy, in their book, said that it's the next economic revolution after the agrarian economy, the industrial economy, the service economy. The experience economy is the next big revolution that's happening. And no matter whatever product you pick up, whether it's a cup of coffee at Starbucks, and we're going to come to that example very soon, you are always looking at okay, what kind of experience I had at Starbucks, or what kind of experience I had with using the product. And what they basically code in their book, which is the experience economy, and I would recommend all of you to go ahead and read it. It's called The Experience Economy: Work is Theater and Every Business is Stage. And they say that when a customer buys an experience, they are paying to spend time in enjoying a series of memorable events that the company stages, like a theatrical play, to engage them in a personal way. And so when you look at the Starbucks example, you have three economic entities. You start with the commodity, which is the coffee bean. When it is ground and packaged, you get the packaged ground coffee. That's a good. When you have a cup of coffee, that's a drink, a service. And then Starbucks combines that with their luxuriant ambience, with their personalization, with their continuity. Any Starbucks you go to, it feels the same, and that entire experience bundled together increases the value of the coffee that they serve. So a $2 to $3 cup of coffee that you can make at home, when you go to Starbucks, you don't mind paying the $5 to $6 that they charge. And so, coming down to what that book said, the title of the book, Work is Theater and Every Business is Stage. Take another example, your iPhone. When you buy the iPhone product, you are essentially going through these 5 stages of drama: enticing, entering, engaging, exciting, and extending. When you get the product, when you get the box, it entices you to open up the box. Opening up the box, the unboxing of the case is entering into that experience. Using the product, using your iPhone, is engaging with that whole experience of using the iPhone. Exiting is closing away of the box. You know, when you close the iPhone box with the vacuum that it creates and the air that it pushes out, it just feels really, really neat. And that's the exiting of the experience. And extending is the continued use of the product and the experience that you get out of it. And people don't mind paying that high price for that for an iPhone as compared to an Android phone. So again, coming back to that Starbucks, every business school case study starts with a Starbucks case study. So what is the Starbucks experience? It's the ambience, the atmosphere. It's the familiarity. You go to any Starbucks, you feel the same sense of familiarity. Good quality coffee. Some might disagree with that, but um, it's still decent enough. The psychology, the personalized experience. Every time you order a cup of coffee and you wait for your cup of coffee, your name gets called out, even though they get your name wrong sometimes. And behavioral economics. So Starbucks is able to use all of this. And Howard Schultz, he says that Starbucks has a role and a meaningful relationship with their customer, which is not just about coffee. And many industries do that. And I'll have two more examples. So this is published in the book by Joseph Pine and James Gilmore, where they say that, you know, when you start with a commodity, you start all the way at the bottom. You're not able to you cannot get enough returns on the investment for a commodity. But as you start going up in that in that economic chain of creating value from a commodity to a good to a service experience, and when you include that experience factor, you are unlocking unparalleled value addition, which you did not know existed before with that good or with that service. And so many companies, like I said, are adopting this. Steinway and Sons, they have this. I don't know if they're doing this during the pandemic, but they have this idea that you could sign up with them to have a concert pianist sent to your home who will play on your piano that you bought from them, and they'll arrange for everything to be done at home. They'll have valet to welcome their guests and park their cars. They'll have food. They'll have catering, and so that's the whole experience that comes with buying that Steinway piano. And people just can't put a price on that. They love that. They love having a concert pianist come down and perform in your own house on a piano that you bought from Steinway. ThyssenKrupp, the elevator company, they have an amazing way of basically um, uh, doing their customer service management, where they use augmented reality and virtual reality to go through to help out a service technician on the field by connecting them with a service manager in the corporate headquarters or the technical headquarters of the company. So what is experience economy in healthcare, and how are healthcare companies trying to increase or attempting to increase the value by investing in the experiences of the customer or the consumer? And so we come back to these three concepts or these three entities within the healthcare industry, which are the hospitals, the physicians, and the patients. And so when you look at this circle, you're trying to see who has maximum decision making capacity. So in many cases, it is the hospital system that has maximum decision making capacity. And what do they usually decide on? The kind of equipment they'll buy, the kinds of surgical tools they'll purchase. Physicians have some say or quite a lot of say in their personal experience, for example, on a cardiac device that they want to use. And then patients, not so much. They have experience. They have a decision making on what kind of implantables they want, but nothing more than that. So in healthcare, unlike in other industries, a consumer or a patient interacts with the device or technology over a longer duration as compared to just having a cup of coffee. And so in healthcare, what I basically try to come up with is like, um, how much how much time is a patient interacting with the healthcare system. And so for a cup of coffee, it could be from 5 minutes, anywhere from 5 minutes to 3 hours. But for healthcare and the patient's interactions with the healthcare system, it could be anywhere from 1 to 4 hours for maybe a physical checkup that he or she is going for, or it could be staggered if the condition is a lot more severe. So in healthcare, the experience is very staggered, and a patient's experience has to be evaluated or cumulatively added over the entire experience of that healthcare situation at that point that the patient is experiencing. And so let's simple example or a very common procedure, angioplasty. And so I broke that down. You've heard of pathway of care and how innovation should include that in a ethnographic research pathway of care. And you convert that to a patient's experiential cycle. So you have three kinds of experiences that a patient is having in this angioplasty procedure that can be categorized into hospital or clinic experience, procedural experience, and postoperative experience. Hospital or clinic experience could be anything from primary care physician appointment or diagnosis tests, specialist visit, initial medication. Procedural experience could be surgery orientation, admission process, pre-op prep, education on medical devices like stents and implantables, duration of anesthesia. And the post-op experience is rehab, physician follow-ups, quality of life. And you can see that all of this doesn't happen in just hours of receiving treatment. It happens over months. And therefore, that experience that the patient has is staggered and it's broken down and it's fragmented. So, what I basically say is a patient's experience is subjective and staggered. At each point of interaction with the healthcare system, they experience something completely different. Add to that the time variable, and these experiences become a mundane part of their lives. Just like they say that a customer does not know what they want, a patient is no different. And that subjective, erratic experience is our sandbox. While I was at the University of Minnesota, the University of Minnesota Ambulatory Surgery Center had three very basic ways to engage patients to improve their experience while their patients come in for a procedure. They had a very simple thing called a Care Connect badge. It's something similar to what you receive at a restaurant when they give you this little vibrating device that basically tells you, okay, your table's ready. And it's a very simple thing, and it helps a physician as well as ushers within the hospital to know the location of a patient within the hospital and get them to their appointment on time. They have valet tablets all around the hospital, so you can go in and you can put in your car information, and a valet will drive it out to you for a fee of $7. And imagine for somebody who has gone in for a procedure alone, or somebody who is not able to help out another relative go through a procedure by pushing their wheelchair or something like that. It's such a boosting kind of an experience for them, because the hospital is helping out in creating an engaging experience where their needs are taken care of. And anytime you walk into the ambulatory surgery center, you're always greeted by a concierge team member who will escort or direct you to your appointment location. So this is something that patients really value. So how is that experience economy getting transferred to product innovation, and what are companies doing with respect to that? And we hear of these terms, and I've referred to this as the experience jargon. You hear of human factors in ergonomics, you hear of ethnographic research, UX, UI, post-market surveys. These are all ways in which med device companies, pharma companies, healthcare companies, we collect feedback that patients are experiencing or physicians are experiencing with their product or with their service. And some of these are proactive. Some of these terms you use while you're developing a product. In terms like feedback surveys, post-market surveillance, they are more reactive, where the product is in the market and you are trying to collect data, post-market data essentially, on how the device is being used and how the device is performing. I was doing some research on, who are the major decision makers in medical device design. And I found this very interesting paper where these authors went out and they interviewed 11 medical device manufacturers. And you can see over here in this chart that most of the people interviewed were directorial level positions, managing director, director of clinical research. And these medical device companies were either in the area of orthopedics, cardiology. You can see some in wound care, one company in wound care. And so the questions they asked were, who they believe are the intended users of the device, who they consult to inform the design process. And what they found and the row number 11 was the most shocking for me, is they are in the wound care business, and their intended users are home patients, but the individuals consulted are surgeons. And it's not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that surgeons or doctors should be brought down in their or should not be consulted and should not be given the due importance that they deserve in the medical device design process. But when your intended users are home patients, how are they not the individuals you consult? And so you are essentially neglecting the experiences that these home patients would have by just consulting the surgeons, because the surgeons would have something in mind and they would not know how patients are using it at home. And so a lot of times, this is what happens, and it's like a trickle down effect with how the decision making happens. It's a funnel effect. Healthcare systems or hospitals have the most amount of say in what kinds of devices can be used, and then it trickles down, and patients are the least to be considered. And so there were quotes within this paper. One of them was really shocking, where on the top right, where the surgeons were making the decisions for the nurses. The nurses were the ones actually using the device, but the surgeons were the one who were making decisions on what they should use. And on the top left, you can see how one of the persons in a medical device company says the clinical fraternity almost certainly determines the need. After that, all you have to do is persuade people further down the chain. It's defined at the very top and then taught down. And so I'm trying to change this healthcare system into a more level playing field where everyone has a say in their healthcare. And so when you look at this picture that was published by PwC, see that in healthcare, no single stakeholder has the complete picture, and that is pretty scary. With the medical device companies, and so we are. Let's look at. So let's look at drug and device companies right here in the first column. We are only aware of real-time monitoring data and clinical trials. And then there are other stakeholders who are collecting other kinds of data. And there's no way to bring them together to provide a holistic healthcare experience for patients. And so I came up with this concept called the iceberg concept. And back in the day when traditional medicine existed, patients were just looking to get treated. They were just looking to find a doctor. And the doctor was essentially trying to symptoms. And in the traditional medicine era, in an era where there was no internet, no Google, people couldn't look up and educate themselves, Usually, the people who knew everything, the hospital's physicians, that was the 10%, that was the tip of the iceberg. And then patients were people who didn't know. They didn't know what was best for them. And gradually, as we started moving towards the Human Genome Project, started in 1990, and that was when precision medicine took over. That's when the iceberg began to tilt a little bit. And what that brought along was some of the patients who were trying to educate themselves about their healthcare, their health condition. They started rising up out into that 10% of the iceberg. And gradually that shifted, and now you have a time where, with as the quality of education has improved, and with the advent of internet, many of these lay people that you would have thought have now started rising up into the 10%, and they want to have a say in their health than they did earlier. And they want an aspect of personalization in their healthcare. It's not about what everyone wants. It's about what I want as a patient. And so patients are now looking at, if you look at med device innovation overall, we have always seen, okay, patients are taken into one pool, and then you have a medical device developed that is one size fits all. But now, with the advance of technologies like 3D printing and more personalized ones like AI and digital health, they want something that is more personalized than they had earlier. And so that brought in a lot of these technologies: artificial intelligence, additive manufacturing, digital health, genomics, biomaterials. And so it comes down to this one line where data if data is king, emotion is queen. And in this article, what they said was, in the article, the link is on the bottom right, it's by the Flint Group. What they say is, an activity which creates a meaningful data point underscores the experience immediately before that activity. And so that's what we have to capture, because that positive experience that this patient had, you got to capture the motivation behind it, so that okay, this is what a patient liked in this product or in this service, and we got to extend that forward. This is real world examples that I have. Experience Economy Toolkit, inspired by James Gilmore and Joseph Pine, was used in this dental clinic, where they essentially went through each and every patient's health records. They contacted them, and each time they came in, they collected data. And for them, it wasn't just about treating them. They ended their article by saying, smiles are just a small part of what the patients actually take home. And so that change in culture, that change in ideology, basically helped integrate experience economy into this orthodontic practice. There was another research that was done with 200 cancer patients, where they were trying to collect experience quality data. And one of the, you know, a thing that stood out was personalization. And that's where we are headed towards, from traditional medicine to precision medicine to personalized medicine, where patients want something that's for them and them alone, and not something that fits the broader patient population. There's another company that I got to know of called Mytonomy, that is basically, what they call themselves is the Netflix for healthcare, where they're enabling healthcare's digital systems to educate patients before they go into the procedure. So I looked up for gastroenterology, the business unit I'm in right now, and what this company does is they send out videos and training materials to the patients before they go in for a procedure or before they go in to meet the physician. And that reduces 20 minutes, average 20 minutes of time from the nurse's schedule, because the patient has already gone through that. Medical device companies can reach out to Mytonomy and schedule an appointment where they basically talk about, um, basically can use their platform and reach out to patients and, submit their videos, their device videos as patient education tools. So it's a combination of patient education, patient engagement that gives rise to improved experience. Similarly, there's this company called iCAD, which looks at power look density assessment, which came up with a device or a tool called the power look density assessment. And you can see how on the top right, a person um, undergoing breast density assessment, how those organs are squeezed, and the breast compressions are not something very comfortable for a woman to go through during breast density assessment. So they came up with an AI tool that can help automate breast density assessment as compared to putting a woman through that procedure of almost 30 seconds, and then she's going home and then experiencing the same amount of experiencing pain in her shoulder and her neck, which is an experience that she does not want. AliveCore is another tool where they've combined mobile health, cloud technology, medication tracking, and ease of use, and created this experience sweet spot where your Apple Watch cannot detect AFib, but they are approved for detecting AFib in patients. This is another one of my favorite, limitless solutions. So this is a startup, not a startup, but an NGO that's a nonprofit that's based out of University of Central Florida. And for the founder of this company, they were looking at kids who were born with deformities or who have deformities over their during their childhood, and they are simply 3D printing arms for them that look cool. And for this founder, when he asked the kids, it was never about able to pick things up. It was able to look cool and look really really savvy amongst your friend circle. And so limitless solutions is creating that experience for kids who have undergone or who have a limb difference, and they're able to bring them into their friend circle by giving them a cool arm like an Iron Man hand, like you see on that bottom right. Um, so how do we apply experience economy? And there are a lot of ways that have been developed. So you use two terms: return of experience versus return of investment. And essentially what they are saying is that R&D has a lot of say in making sure that the return of experience gets more attention as compared to the return on investment. It's not like the return on investment isn't important, but when you're developing a product, try to include that sense of experience economy or a concept or an aspect of engaging patients in an insightful way, in a meaningful way, or in a theatrical way, like Joseph Pine and James Gilmore said. And a lot of market forces are aligning with this. So the rise of the empowered consumer, the shift to value-based care, changing competitive dynamics, and patient satisfaction surveys that have been instituted or mandated by the Center of Medical by CMS, Medicare and Medicaid services. So all of these together are creating a situation or a scenario um, where patients want their experiences to be heard and to be used meaningfully in device design or in service offerings. Regulatory support already exists. The FDA has already proposed a patient centric or a patient focused policy for collecting all of this experience information. And so patient experience finally is actions, feelings, needs, preferences over the time of the healthcare encounter. And that's what I mentioned. It's staggered over a long period of time, patient experience. It's not like having a cup of coffee. So with that, I end my presentation. I end with this quote from Joseph Pine, where he says that services are about time well saved, but experiences are about time well spent. And in any way that the healthcare industry can adopt concepts from this or ideas from this to include within their product or the service, it'll go a long way in bringing the healthcare industry at par with other industries that are doing the same thing, but in different ways. And there's a lot that the healthcare industry can learn from other industries. So with that, thank you. And any questions, any comments, suggestions, I'd love to hear from the audience. If not, this presentation's going to be available, and there are links there. There are amazing articles for you to read, and definitely try reading that book. It's for me, that was a great book to read. It was just an eye-opener, and that's what got me really, really passionate about this subject within the healthcare realm. So,
fantastic! Yeah, bravo! In spirit of the title of that book. No, I know that Broadway is reopening next month, but you've certainly done a great prelude. And in fact, it's actually a perfect transition into the next topic, which will be about patient-centric co-design in medical devices, particularly software development. But this is wonderful. Let's see if there's any open questions. I think not, and we're exactly at the time point to transition. So Avishek, okay. I appreciate it. I'm sure people could reach you on LinkedIn if they have any follow-up questions. Is that right?
Yes, they can. They can. Okay. And I think you guys also have my contact information. If anybody wants to reach out, you can connect me with them.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.